Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish, every little thing in between, yes. And this is part 53, painting green gemstones, specifically on Eldar, but you can apply this technique to pretty much any gemstones that you want to be green. And today we'll be painting this Dark Reaper miniature from the Eldar army, from Citadel of course, and as you can see, he has tons of gemstones on him. And the first rule of gemstones is you don't have to actually paint all of them. Today I'm going to paint a lot of them just to show you different angles, but you don't have to paint all of them on a model, just decide how many you want to paint. And today we'll be using a set of colors, so we'll be starting off with a black base coat, ABADDON black, and then going through the dark green Citadel triad, CALBAN green, WARPSTONE green, MOOT green, and then finally using a white dot in each one to show where the light is coming from. So we'll start off with our black, ABADDON black, and we'll add it to our palette. And then of course we're going to thin it down because we always thin down our paints, especially when we're painting miniatures, and we don't want to obscure the details, so we'll add a little medium. Give it a quick stir, and get it to a nice consistency, and that way we don't muddle any of the details. And as I mentioned before, you don't actually have to paint all the gemstones in the miniature, but today we will. Or at least many of the ones that are visible. And so today I'll be base coating all of them black, and we're going to leave, this sets the foundation of a dark gemstone, but we're also going to leave a section of black in each gemstone, which I'll be going over after, a little oval in each area of the gemstone, depending on where you want to simulate the light source being. So once again, we'll start off by base coating all of them, and I'll expose all the gemstones that I'm going to paint today, just with ABADDON black. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use a very, very detailed brush. This is a 00 brush that I'm using because these are actually very small details. And take that into consideration when I'm painting this, that the eyes are, it's going to be much more blended with the eyes. So then you got to decide where the light source is hitting. So I'm going to decide two angles. First one on the guy himself from above, and on the gun, I'm going at a slight angle based on where my brush is hitting, as you can see here. I'm going to dictate where the angle of the light is hitting. That will dictate ultimately where you paint on the gem and where you're going to put the little white dot at the very end to be a reflection of the light source. So we'll start off with CALBAN green, and as I said, we're going to leave an oval in each of the gemstones reflecting where the sun is hitting. So on ones where it's going to be vertical, we'll leave the oval at the very top of the gemstone, as you can see. So I'm painting and I'm leaving a little oval at the top, a subset of the gemstone, if you will, which it'll be easier to see when I get to lighter colors, because this CALBAN green is very thin, and I did of course thin down with the rest of my paints, as I always thin down in the paints, and so it blends very well to the black. So when one's facing upwards, we're going to leave the oval upwards, and then the ones that we're going to reflect the light source from the top right, we're going to leave the oval of course in the top right of the gemstone. And this oval of black will be used to just create the contrast of the gemstone, and as well as we're going to put the little white dot at the end, which will be a reflection of the light source. So it'll really make the gemstones really pop. And as I mentioned, this is under a really huge magnification, as you can see with the camera. So under normal times, when you see the gemstones, they'll look much more blended and really make this miniature pop and stand out. These little details are amazing, especially if you're painting Eldar armies. These little things will really make your miniatures look awesome. And then next we're going to take the next color, WARPSTONE glow, of course, thin it down, of course, and then what we're going to do is we're going to paint a subset of the gemstone and leave a gap. You know, we're not going to go as high up as we did with the previous step and paint the same pattern, basically, as the first step, leaving that band of CALBAN green between the black and the WARPSTONE glow. So of course we're not going as far up as we did with the previous step. And then we're really going to get a nice gradient of black all the way to our lightest color, MOOT green, in the end. And repeating this pattern, and now you can see basically the pattern in which this particular color allows. It's much easier to see now the pattern in which I painted on the gemstones, leaving the top right of the gemstones the black. And then next I used MOOT green, which is the lightest color in that triad, and I just did the same thing, but this is only along the very bottoms of each gemstone. As you can see, just painting the bottom parts. That way we get a nice gradient of color, black at the top, MOOT green at the bottom, and these gemstones are really going to start to pop. And as I said, these are going to dry slightly darker than when I paint them because it is thin down paint, so it will dry a little bit darker and blend quite nicely. there we go on all the rest of them. And then we got to get back to our white scars. So now we've dictated where the light source is coming from, and we're going to use the white scar to place a little circle in each part of the gemstones. So in the black part of the gemstone, I mean. So we're going to use the white dot to signify where the light source is hitting this miniature, and it's going to be ultimately the part that it shines on the gemstone. So what I do is I pick the part that reflects where we're angling. So if it is in the top part, I pick the top center. If it's going from above, but if it's going from the top right, like it's going on the guns, we're going to pick the top right corner of the gemstones and paint that white little dot on each one. And obviously when painting these dots, take your time, use a very steady hand. Feel free to prop up your arms, so that way you get a really nice, easy, steady hand, and you're able to paint these dots very easily. And this is ultimately what brings the gemstones to light, is this little dot. For some reason, just once you put that little dot in the gemstone, it all comes together and looks really awesome. And it just gives it a lot more character. And that's it. So after you're done with the white dots, just let it dry, and as I said, the colors will blend. And that's essentially it, how to paint green gemstones on Eldar miniatures, or any other miniatures that have gemstones, whatever you want. And here it is when it's all done. So as I said, the first step is decide where the light source is hitting. Keep an oval of black when you base coat. Build up the gradient to colors, and finally paint the white to reflect that same light source. And then you got some nice looking jewels on your miniature. Plus you don't have to paint all the jewels on a miniature. I just decided to do this just for examples. And in the end, it looks pretty awesome. And as I said, this is from a good magnification up close to a normal eye. This is going to look awesome.
So as always, thank you very much for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101. I hope you enjoyed it and liked it. And stay tuned for part 54, which is just around the corner next week as always. But if you can't wait for next week, check out the Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel, where not only we get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101s, you'll get to see dozens upon dozens of start to finish painting tutorials, battle reports, airbrushing tutorials, and everything that you'd want in a YouTube channel. So go and check out the Warp. I think you'll love it. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.